Jordan Benton knew at an early age that she was destined to be a dancer. Now she's a professional dancer and choreographer here in the Lowcountry. Today, I talk one-on-one with Jordan for this edition of Quintin's Close-Ups. And if you haven't already, subscribe to my YouTube channel and like Quintin's Close-Ups on Facebook. Jordan Benton, welcome to Quintin's Close-Ups.
Thank you so much. I'm so happy to be here.
Well, I appreciate it greatly. You are a dancer and a professional choreographer here in Charleston. You were born here. You also attended the Charleston County School of Arts as a dance major. Of course, you graduated from the College of Charleston, double majoring in dance and theater with lighting concentration. Let me ask you this, Ms. Jordan. What does dance mean to you these days?
So to me, dance is an outlet that I am able to just use in order to bring joy to people. I think that in this world, we need a lot more joy. And I think as performers, or even anybody that does anything in the performing arts, we're able to create this world of joy. But also, to me, dance is a place where I can use emotions that maybe everybody is feeling. So showing joy, but also showing hardship in life and things like that. And I think that it's just an emotional escape to kind of connect people in this world in order to be able to feel or just experience. And to me, it was something when I was a child that was a huge outlet for me. Today I still see it as an outlet, even though it's a blessing that I get to be able to do it professionally and I get to do it for work, and that makes me so happy. But it started out just as an outlet for me to kind of escape as a little kid.
Wow. So when did this, as far as dance, became your emotional escape?
I would say that seriously, dance came into my life when I was probably like 4 or 5, because that's when you can finally, you know what's going on. But I started dancing when I was 2. So I started dancing at a really young age, but I have memories of being 4 and 5 and being at the dance studio and just being happy to be there and wanting to be there every single day.
Wow. So, Ms. Jordan, what is the biggest difference about dance from the time that you started when you were a little kid to right now?
So when I was a little kid, I would say that dance to me was just something that I did after school. And it was just something that I did in order to spend more time at something that I loved. So, I mean, it's just, I feel like a lot of people that start when they dance, it's something inspires them. And my older sister inspired me to dance. She was dancing and I would watch her dance class and I was like, oh, I want to do that. But then as I got older, I would say when it started to change for me is when Emmanuel 9 happened. Our school had this huge event, and I ended up doing a solo for that event. And during that time, I realized that we can make a difference. And that's when it switched for me, is that you can make a difference as a performer. It's not just, oh, I'm performing and it always has to be happy and cheerful and just making people laugh, but I'm a performer and I can change people's lives and I can change people's hearts.
Wow.
So that's when it started to change for me, and it became a different important thing. And I think that that's where I still am today, is that we can change people with our art.
Yes, ma'am. So when you're on the stage, Ms. Jordan, how do you separate yourself from actually being Jordan Benton, the performer?
So in real life, people that know me know I'm kind of like quiet and shy.
Oh.
So it's kind of funny that I'm a performer on the stage, and because I feel like it's different because I'm on the stage, so I can just perform for anybody without feeling any pressures of like when you go into a conversation and you're nervous or you're worried about things. And on stage, it's just a place where you can go. And you don't have to worry about anything that just happened that day. You can worry about the people smiling at you in the audience or just observing you in the audience. And I think that that's one of the best things that I love about dancing and performing.
And when you talk about dancing and performing, and you go back obviously to your earlier days as a dancer, what were those dancing pressures for you?
For me, when I was younger, I feel like for a while, sometimes it's heavy on the perfection. And that was hard for me because then I became a perfectionist in my mind. And I think that that's a lot of society, a lot of things, a lot of crafts that people do, a lot of things in work they put a lot of pressure on perfectionism, and they put a lot of pressure on doing it right the first time. And I think that I had to take a while to kind of just be free from that and not worry, because I think that when I was a perfectionist and I was so like worried about getting it perfect, I wasn't able to really perform and to see the people in the audience. In my mind, I was more like, I got to do this perfect, this perfect, this perfect. But then when you become free to that, you can see the beautiful people in the audience watching you and just there, and that's a huge difference.
Absolutely. And Ms. Jordan, when you are dancing and performing on stage, what else are you free from in your mind?
So for me, I feel like I'm free from a lot of anxiety and stress that comes from life. I think that everybody is dealing with something. Everyone may have some sort of just hidden anxieties, whether that's family pressure, different work pressures, or just feeling like you're not good enough. And I think that all of those are something that I deal with on a daily basis. But when I'm dancing, I am able to kind of use the things that cause me anxiety, or use the things that maybe make me sad, or use the things that make me happy in order to dance. And I think that for me, my faith is really, really important to me. So especially with a lot of the happier shows that I do, like the Christmas shows or any of the Moran shows, I feel like it's just pure joy. And that's something that's super important to me, is that I'm able to use my faith to bring joy to people. But then if I'm doing something a little bit different, like if I'm doing a video for a church that maybe is talking about struggles, then that's when I can bring out my emotions a little bit more. And that's when I tie into things that kind of I've gone through in life that I'm working through. And I think that dance is a good place where you're able to be so vulnerable that you're able to kind of work through things while you're performing. So.
And Ms. Jordan, what are those things that you had to work through when it came to those videos? I noticed some of your latest works.
So, whenever I started in COVID, I started doing a lot of video works. And I remember being in my room and just feeling like I couldn't leave. I felt so stuck. I was like, dance is what I know, and I can't dance. But then I was also you see social media, and you see police brutality, and you see people dying, and you see people being there's just like a lot of evil in this world. And I remember being a kid and feeling like I didn't really fit in, and I didn't know where to fit in. And that was super hard for me, is just feeling like I couldn't fit in. And that was always my mindset of, who do I need to be like? What do I need to be like in order to fit in order to be able to be accepted in this society? Like, people will be like, your hair is different. Why is your hair different? You need to straighten your hair, and all this stuff and all this pressure on you. And I feel like for me, whenever I created the first video that I did in my house was Freedom, and it was by Ranky Tanky.
Right.
And that song speaks so much volume to me even to this day, because there's a certain freedom that you find when you find your faith. And I think that freedom was something that I needed to find during COVID. And so that video was helping me not worry about, it was in my kitchen. My kitchen was dirty in the background. I remember my mom saying, like, the kitchen was dirty. Why didn't you clean it? But I wanted to dance so bad. I was just like, I don't care. I don't care if it's not perfect. I don't care if things aren't clean. And then that night is when the George Floyd shooting happened. And for me, that stirred something. It stirred something in my heart, because I was like, I think that I can use dance in order to touch people in this time, in order to make a difference, in order to talk about this, in order to bring people to understand that love starts from a young age. And if you don't implement that, then hatred becomes a thing. And hatred becomes a thing to when people start treating other people differently because they don't look like them. And I feel like I made the video, it's called Glory Comes. And then I also made a video called Selah. And Selah was the very first video that I made during COVID.
Wow.
And that video was to point out, like, you don't know what you're doing when you're being unkind, or when you're saying things to people like, oh, you don't fit in, you don't look like me. And so that's why I made that video, is to just in kind of protest um, against the norms and what people think should be the normal, and protest against police brutality and protest against racism and things like that in this world. And that was really important to me because I believed that, and I still believe that that's something that's in this world and it's prevalent. And, for me, I want to use my voice and my outlet, which in college I did this dance called Strange Fruit. And that dance is about lynchings. And that was the very first dance that I did that was empowering kind of the story of of passage. And I also did a dance when I was in college that was called The Passage, and it was in honor of my grandmother, who my grandma, she's not living anymore, but she's a huge inspiration to my life. And seeing her as a Black woman and a single mom as a Black woman living in the South, raising 6 children, is something that was inspiring to me. And seeing her be so strong and to fight through so many difficulties was something that inspired me in order to dance. So I think that all of my stuff is really inspired by the struggles that I faced when I was a little kid, when people were putting pressures on me to look a certain way and to do a certain things. I don't think I started wearing my hair natural until I was like in college. You know what I mean? Because it stung so bad and I wanted to look like everybody else and fit in like everybody else. So I think that during that time I really found freedom in order to use my voice and to find my own identity and be okay with my own identity.
When did you find your identity, Miss Jordan?
I would say that like during college is when I really felt like I didn't care what people thought about me anymore, and I wasn't trying to be like anybody else anymore.
Yeah. And going back obviously to your grandmother, if you were to create a dance or a performance in her honor, what would it be today?
So the dance that I created and I would want to work towards creating a bigger version of is just talking about her life and just showcasing the strength that she had and the support that she gave.
Sure.
So how it started out was the solo was talking about that I did was showcasing kind of her becoming sick in her older age and how she began to forget things that she had on her, or she experienced in life. That's what I'm trying to say. So the solo that I did was a kind of dark and sad solo that just felt really heavy. And then I went into a duet that was about finding the support that you need, and finding that. And when I did it in the college, it was just a duet, but it was me and this man named Josiah, and he's incredible. And it was a duet, and it was the songs were all Cuban, and it kind of had that beautiful feel of music. And for me, it's important to integrate all of the culture into the dance too. So for my grandma, I would, if I took that dance and made it into a bigger storyline, I would want to have live music and to be able to just tell the story of her birth all the way to her death. And like how you have to, when you're younger, you have to live through things, but then also when you're adult and you become sick or you become older, you also have to live through the idea of forgetting things and trying to continue to move on. But forgetting things doesn't mean that you still don't have that pain that you carried through your whole life. So kind of using that pain in order to create something, and then celebrating her transitioning into her new life and that celebration and wearing all white. And so that piece I did do a piece to celebrate her. And I think that it was super powerful in my heart, because then it showed me that like I can tell so many people's stories, not just my own. And that's what I want to do, is try and showcase the people that can't speak or can't tell their stories right now. Use my platform for them.
Yes, ma'am, absolutely. And I want to go to your story in just a second, because I did an extensive research on that last night. But you talk about obviously, trying to find support. How did you find support when you were bullied and not treated right in high school?
I think that it was hard at first because I definitely felt alone and I felt secluded. But I had some people in high school that became my friends. And I think I had a strong friend group that helped me. But in high school, you still try and find that identity. You know what I mean? And when you're around people that don't look like you at all, it's hard to find that identity. So I think I got most of my support in dance and being able to go to dance after school and be able to perform in class and be able to kind of escape. So for me, that's where I got my support. That's where besides having friends that I could talk to every day and work through things, I think that going to dance was something that, one, kept me out of trouble because it was easy to get into trouble when you're in high school and to kind of choose which way you were going to go. So I think that dance helped me be able to, not get into much trouble, but also it supported me in being able to constantly feel like there's a place for me. Dance was always that place for me. It felt kind of like home.
Oh, and talk to me about how your friends are doing now, and what do they think about you as a professional dancer and a choreographer?
So I still talk to some of my friends from high school, and they're super supportive of me being a dancer, and they're constantly like, I'm so proud of you for still dancing, which is awesome. And the friends that I have made now in my college years are also super supportive of it too. They'll come to my shows, they'll be there for me, and I love it because it's super awesome to have people that are supportive of the arts, because I feel like we need that. We need people to support and to love the arts. Actually, my last Christmas show, I think I had like 10 friends come at one time because they were all like, we want to see you. So it was pretty awesome to just know that like my friends were in the audience and experiencing it. And I could see them in the balcony and they were taking their phones and they were like going like this all the whole time. So that was pretty awesome. And that was my church small group. They all came one night and it was super sweet.
Wow, that's amazing. So, Ms. Jordan, when you look at obviously arts today, what is the state of performing arts in your mind?
So for me, I think that there are way more opportunities now. And I was terrified during COVID. I didn't know what to think. I was like, am I ever going to get on the stage again? And that was kind of my mindset for a while. But then the video content kind of came out, and that world came out, and that's a huge platform. And I think that that's kind of what sparked my mind to be like, oh, this is really different, and this is really awesome, and this can touch so many people. I remember when I released Selah and Glory Comes, I was just a 22-year-old in my room during COVID, just posting things on Facebook, and one of the videos like got over 16,000 views, and I would have never expected that. I would have never expected, and I mean, people that are like famous on YouTube and stuff get way more views, but for me, something that's like just something that I did for fun and something that I did in order to bring people together to have such like an impact was crazy to me. I didn't expect that a video could do that. So I think that performing arts, there's a huge kind of world opening that's really exciting, and that is video. And being able to, if I'm performing here in Charleston on a stage, I can touch people, in California. I can touch people in Africa. I can touch people, and that's what you see too. Like, I love these videos that I see on my Instagram, and I don't know where the videos are from, but I know they're from Africa, and there are these little boys just like getting it and dancing, and it makes me so happy because in high school, I didn't see that. In middle school, I didn't see that. And just because it's not your traditional like performance, it's this world that's opening up, and I think it's beautiful.
What are those untraditional performing arts methods that you see now that you didn't see before?
I think that they were always there, I will say that, but something that's new that like I'm opening my mind to and experiencing more and partaking more is kind of the immersive art field, and immersing your art with different other collaborators and different artists. So maybe you're in like an art gallery, and you're using the paintings around you in order to do a beautiful dance. I just saw some stories from Unbound.
Oh, yes.
It's a dance project here in Charleston, and they did immersive work downtown at an art gallery. And it was super cool because they were using paint dripping from the wall in order to dance, and I thought that was gorgeous. So I think that sort of thing is something that I'm opening my mind towards, and I would love to do a lot more of, because it's really, really cool. And I love collaboration. I think for me, as an artist, I love live music, and I will always dance with music behind me, but there's also different artists. There's poets, and I just did a project with the Free Verse Festival where I was dancing, and there was a bunch of free verse, obviously, but also a bunch of different performers who came out and showcased their works, which was awesome. So I think that I really like using spoken word or using art in order to kind of bring it together into this kind of new collaborative experience, rather than just focusing on little different things. And it doesn't always have to have a storyline. It doesn't always have to have a meaning, but it can be something that the audience is like, wow, that's different.
Yes. So what spoken word, when you think of it in an art form, describes you?
I would say poetry.
Wow. That's amazing. And poetry, why?
So I think that, well, I have to just talk about Marcus Amaker.
Oh, yes.
And how incredible he is.
Yes.
And I was able to do some work with him.
Right.
And as an artist who really wants to take people's lives and their own stories in order to perform and to tell other people's stories, I listened to some of his work and I read some of his books, and I was just like, wow, the way that you can articulate things and articulate the rhythm of things in just speaking in poetry, I think that to me feels like me, and it feels like, the rhythm of being able to dance. I feel like sometimes when I walk down the street, it's not just like a regular walk, but there's like a little shoulder roll or something like that. So, and the rhythm of poetry is kind of like that. It's not always the same. It's not always consistent. It changes a little bit in the different stories that you may be telling. And I think that's something that I can relate to as well.
Wow. So what else do you relate to when it comes to art and dance these days?
So for me, I think I, as a dancer, have always related to things such as like Dance Theater of Harlem and Alvin Ailey and Complexions. Those are companies that I can relate to a lot, because I think that I love how they use our culture in order to tell so many different stories. And Revelations is a dance that Alvin Ailey has done, and seeing that when I was a little kid, I was just like, oh, I want to do that. Like, I want to do that. And I feel like I still relate to that today, is whenever I'm performing in churches or things like that, just using the stories of the gospel and using music of the South in order to like really just live. And I think that's something that I relate to a lot. And then in music, I feel like Ranky Tanky is something that I relate to a lot, and I listen to their music a lot, and I listen to their music in order to get ready for shows a lot. And it's the breath, it's just the attention to detail and how you play every instrument, and being able to just stand with them on a stage and do a video with them. I felt the breath in everything, and it's just, I related to that a lot, because I think that as a performer and as a dancer, your breath can tell a story. And even with painting, those breath strokes, whenever a painter is just painting and they're like, and just releasing, I feel like that's a lot with dance too.
Yes, absolutely. And I've had two of the Ranky Tanky members, Kiana and Charlton, on Quintin's Close-Up before, and hope to get them back on soon to talk about their recent Grammy nomination.
Yes.
But you wrote an article many years ago for the Chosen Women's Conference entitled, Where Do I Fit In? You said this: my story starts with my name, Jordan Maria. Jordan. Most people immediately say, oh, like Michael Jordan. I love basketball, so it never bothers me. But Jordan is actually Hebrew, and it means to descend or flow down. Since I'm a dancer, that translation is fine with me. It sounds graceful. So what is graceful about dancing in your mind today?
So today, and this kind of goes back and is a very different parallel to when I was a kid and was so worried about the perfection in it. But today I find grace the gracefulness in the grace of being able to just be and to just do. And I love that translation of my name because it's to flow. And I feel like flowing through any movement or flowing through any story is something that's super important to me. And I think that a part of me is now as I'm getting older is kind of releasing and just being able to just soak in the audience and soak wherever I am and to just feel who's around me and to just flow from there. I like to improv a lot. I feel like I like to improv a lot compared to most people because for me, in a performance, when I'm standing around people, I can just look at someone in the audience and I feel like I can feel them. And then whatever flows from me just flows from me after that. But I can feel what they're feeling. And so for me, I love that because once I found it, I was like, I just kind of flow. I feel like I flow and whatever goes. And for so long, I wasn't like that. For so long, I was like, it has to be like this. It has to be like this. It has to be like this. And just like, and I feel like, do you ever feel like that too? Do you ever feel like you're just kind of,
yes.
I feel like that meaning when I read it, I was just like, I would like to see how I could flow more, see how I could find that more, and find the gracefulness in just being and just taking in the moment because life is way too short. Nothing is promised. So taking it in, taking the moment, thanking God, thanking our body to just be able to just dance and flow and feel the energy and experience the people that are right beside you or around you is something that's incredible.
And I know, obviously, in high school, you, as I mentioned earlier, had some bullying issues, but I'm sure there was a positive moment out of all of this. So how did you take in that moment?
So I struggled a lot with bullying when I was younger and just not fitting in, and in college as well, feeling like I didn't fit in at all. But for me, what that taught me is strength because even today, I struggle with this a lot is, worrying so much about what people think about me and then it affecting how I am, affecting how I respond to things. And I think that slowly but surely, and I'm not there yet, and I'm nowhere near close, but slowly but surely in high school, in college, when I was going through all of those things, I was able to slowly realize, okay, like, I can't let it affect me that much. I can't hold anybody else's burdens on my heart, and I can't hold what people think about me on my heart, because if I do, that will tear me down. And instead of letting people's words tear me down, or looks, or anything like that, I use it. And I'm like, okay, it doesn't matter. I am who I am, and I am who God says I am. Yes. And that's the only thing that matters.
Yes, ma'am. And you said this too. As a kid, I tried not to call attention to my sans tint skin. I went to a lot of trouble to straighten my hair every day and do what I was told, but I didn't fit in, as you mentioned. Baptized at 10, I knew I wanted to follow God, but everything was so focused on following the rules. And what I loved most in the world, dance, was viewed as a sin at my school. So how did you follow God despite those rules?
So I would say that I stepped away for a while because there was a heavy idea of legalism in the church that I went to and the school that I went to. And that caused people to then judge you for dancing and being like, that's a sin, dancing is bad, and all of this stuff, and all those labels were put on me. And I'm like, well, this is the only thing that I have. When I go after school, this is where I go. My mom worked so hard for me to be able to take dance and worked so hard to make sure I could get there, and that was my outlet. So I didn't understand why a gift that God gave me to do from a young age. Not many people, like at 1.5, are like, oh, I want to dance, and then start dancing at 2. That's not something that usually kids think about.
Right.
So it was obviously driven by the Spirit. And I think that for me, it's just,
yes, ma'am.
It was driven by the Spirit. And at that point, I just decided to just step away, because I was like, if this is how it's going to be treated, then I don't want to be in this environment. I don't want to be where people are like, you can't do this, because it didn't make sense to me. And now when I read the Bible and I look at it, there's dancing in the Bible, there's rejoicing. It's a form of worship.
Right.
So I realize that now, but I would say that I stepped away for a while because I didn't understand, and where I was in the churches that I was going to were heavy on the legalism side, which was scary to me, because I was like, I feel like God would love me for showcasing dance and for bringing people joy in dance. So,
and Ms. Jordan, when you obviously got back into that rhythm, how did the Holy Spirit guide you throughout your entire time in high school?
So I actually found God again in college. So it was a long, dark period through high school and through half of college, and through interactions and through God bringing people into my life, I was able to go back to church and realize through people talking to me and encouraging me that, like, he didn't think that dance was a sin, and he didn't think that what I was doing was a sin. Right. And then I had to, because I did go through a dark period of time, I made bad decisions, and I had to find grace in that, which is the beauty of now feeling like dance to me is more graceful, is because I now realize that the Spirit is in me and he's leading me to do it, and I feel it every time I go on stage. I pray before I go on stage, and I just feel like it fills me because it's different. It's more graceful now, and I'm like, no, God wants this. God is guiding me through this, and he's with me through the end, and he's with me during all of this, which is very different than feeling like, oh no, like I'm doing this and it's a sin, and but this is all I know, and like I don't know if I never thought I could be a doctor or something like that. So dance is something that I knew that like was for me. Yes. So for a while, for me to like be told that it wasn't okay was just, it was like, what do I do? Like, and I feel like that's something that's super hard in the church. The legalism is something that's really hard, because then it pressures people to look only one way at things, when in reality, yes, certain types of dance are probably not what God wants us to do, but there are a lot that God wants us to do, and we are able to do it as well.
And I know you said this too, that the same year my parents divorced after 3 years of a painful transition, and my going to church went from every week to every other to only on holidays. I tried to pretend everything was okay, but it wasn't. That's why I had to dance. So how did you pretend with dancing throughout all of this ordeal?
So whenever I was dancing, I feel like it was that escape again. So I did not have to, I went into dance in my folk because it was more about perfectionism back then. It was more like, oh, I better get these steps right, and I better do this right. And it was less like there's fights going on at home that are traumatizing me, and there's things that are happening in my life that are traumatizing to me. So when I got to dance, all I had to pretend, or all I had to be was, did I remember my choreography? Did I remember this? Did I remember that? Or in ballet, you're sitting there at the bar for an hour and a half, and you're just thinking about, okay, when I plie, I do this. And I think that's what started the outlet, is because it was a place where I didn't have to think so much about what was happening to me and what I was going through. And I think that something that I still struggle with to this day is whenever something comes up or struggles come up, I have that in my mind, and I'm kind of wired that way, where I'm just going to keep going, and I'm going to keep going, and I'm going to keep going, and then I don't actually take time to rest and actually go through the emotions that I need to go through. So I feel like it kind of goes two ways, because I used it so much like as an escape when I was younger, because dance can be, but then now I do that too. So it's like, as I'm getting older, it's like sometimes I probably need to slow down and just breathe.
Yes. Yes, indeed. I agree. And you said that my parents obviously didn't like you. You said that, and they made sure they knew of it. They started bullying you, you said, and the older kids I danced with didn't want to hang out with someone so much younger. Once again, I didn't fit in. In the 6th grade, my life did a 180. I auditioned and got accepted to a local school of arts where the students came from all over. Finally, I didn't stick out because of the color of my skin, and my classmates were a mix of atheists, Muslims, and Christians, and still others who didn't bother thinking about spirituality at all. So how exactly did your dancing stick out?
Whenever I was in middle school with everybody else.
Wow.
Oh, sorry, I was asking. I'm sorry. Whenever I was in middle school.
Wow, wow.
Did you hear me?
Yes,
Sorry.
ma'am. Oh, yes,
Oh, I
ma'am.
was saying, are you asking about how did it stick out in middle school or
Yes,
when?
ma'am. Yes,
Oh,
ma'am. In
sorry.
sixth grade.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
So, the dancing to me stuck out in middle school, because I think that I came from a different, in the school and dance at SOA was very different than the school or the dance that I was going through at night, and like the pressure and kind of the perfectionism that I felt then versus at school were very different, because it went from like you have to do this right to then you have to do it for a grade. And I think that that's how it stuck out to me, is because now it became super serious, and it's something that I was like, okay, I'm pursuing this and this is serious, and then I really want to do this. And for me, it was hard because there's so many different people and there's so many different cliques whenever you go to a new school. And I went to a Christian school that there was maybe 45 kids in my class. I can't remember.
Wow.
It was a long time ago. I don't remember how many kids were in there, but to then going to a school with like 160 kids in my class and like trying to then I remember the first days of school, like going to each little clique that people already made because they came from the same elementary schools, and like trying to figure out like where do I fit in, but also like the things that they were talking about coming from a girl who was very sheltered in a Baptist school growing up. I was like, whoa, I don't know. So when I went to dance class, I was like, okay, it was like a breath of fresh air that I could get into dance class and be like, this is something that I know, and this is something. So every day, like during school, I would have to like kind of navigate how to fit in with everybody else and do all those things. And then dance stuck out every day to be a place where I could be like, okay, I know how to do this. I know how to do this.
Wow. So if you would go back to middle school, what would you tell your middle school self now?
I would definitely tell myself to not try and fit in with the cool kids. And that's exactly what I did. And that's exactly why I had to straighten my hair every day. And it was terrible. And now, like, finally my hair is growing back. And I'm like, it's because I'm wearing a natural. But I would have to straighten my hair every day. Or I would fit in with their clothes and, like, things like that. That just, it wasn't me. But I think that I would tell myself that I didn't have to worry about what other people think about me, and to enjoy who I am. So stop trying to be somebody else. Stop trying to, attach to other people and take a little bit of other people in order to create who I am and my identity. Just be my identity and wear those curls, girl. I wish I would have kept my long curls. I wish I would have, because now I'm still having to grow them out and trying to navigate how to, deal with the hair texture that I ruined because I straightened my hair every day. So I would tell myself to just be me, and it's okay to be you. And it's okay to love who you are and not have to worry about what other people want you to be.
Exactly right. Exactly right. Well, a choreographer, dancer, and little sister in my head, Jordan Benton, thank you for your time. And again, welcome to Quintin's Close-Ups.
Thank you so much for having me. This was an amazing experience, and I'm so glad to finally meet you and talk to you over Zoom. So thank you so much for having me.
Oh, you're welcome, and keep up the great work.
Thank you.
You're welcome.